I've really liked your collection, and one of the most important political story I've ever liked is how this guy was defeated immediately after winning the war.
Exactly. It's a great. Yeah. Right. It is really astonishing. Yeah. So sometimes it's the setbacks in our life that really set the course for much bigger and better things. Well, now they're on the council with their former mayors. Yeah. We have the council meets in here for important meetings to decide certain policy issues. If we can't do it out there in public under executive session. Yeah. So this is a conference room. It's called the mayor's conference room. But let's see the mayor's office. My wife gave me this picture when I became mayor. This is the picture of Winston Churchill on the newly commissioned Prince of Wales back right when the war in Europe was breaking out, and he was literally on his way to meet with FDR. So when I saw this picture and I told my wife there was a picture of Winston Churchill, I definitely wanted it in my office because it's just a great picture. It's a great moment in time. That was actually the second time that Winston Churchill met FDR. The first time was when they were with both Navy officials in their own republics. As Churchill, many years before in World War I, was Lord of the Admiralty before he became PM in 1940. So this is a picture of, this is one of my favorite pictures. This was taken in a hotel room in Los Angeles. It's a copy of the picture. I've actually seen the original. It ran in Life magazine. And this was when on the day that John F. Kennedy was nominated to become President of the United States. That's his brother. That's in a hotel in downtown Los Angeles. My family and I have actually stayed at this hotel. And do you know what they're thinking about? What they're talking about? They're trying to decide who the president was going to pick as his vice president. And what they didn't know, and they knew ultimately they were going to have to pick LBJ, who Bobby did not like and did not want, but they had to have him because they had to have Texas. And if they didn't have Texas, they wouldn't win. So here they are making a difficult decision. What they did not realize is that in that moment they were picking the next president of the United States because John F. Kennedy would be dead 3 years later. So it's a monumental decision. This picture right here is a picture that I've wanted of the Earth right there. That's called Earthrise. And that picture was taken on Christmas Eve of 1968 from one of the, I think it was Apollo 10, as it came around. Originally, the orientation of the original picture is actually the other way around because that's the way the astronaut took it. But that was the first picture taken of the Earth from the moon. And as you could tell, it's just hanging there like it was just out in the middle of space. And that obviously came in what had been a very tumultuous year for the United States in 1968, after we lost, Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. So it was a very tumultuous year. It's also the year Richard Nixon became president, and there had been riots in the streets. This rock right here by Anna, this is my favorite place in the whole world, other than Federal Way. This is Cannon Beach, Oregon, and this is if you take a look at this picture, this is where my family goes for holiday. This is a picture at a different time, but that's called Haystack Rock. It's on the Oregon coast, and it's really one of the most beautiful locations. As you can see, I've got quite a number of books. This is me when I was much younger. I was a senior in college at the time. That's my political mentor, Pete von Reichbauer, who was a state senator at the time. That was our governor at the time. When you're governor, I'm going to have to get a picture with you. It'll go prominently in here. And that actually right there, that picture. Remember, I said I worked in the first Bush White House. This was his vice president. I worked in the vice president of the United States office. Now, I worked there for 4 months. I didn't get paid. It's all the Diet Coke I could drink. I was an intern. All the Diet Coke I could drink, and I worked for free for 4 months in the White House. And that was on picture day. His name was Dan Quayle. And actually, I'm still in contact with him. He lives in Arizona now. You can see before I was mayor, I was an attorney for King County. I was a King County prosecutor. So I was I worked for 16 years as a prosecutor, and those are some of the awards I received. As you can see, I'm very much into history, this actually is some just personal things. College graduation. You can see most of my interest in history is American political history, but European and Roman history as well is very much an interest. Those are some of just awards I received, and these are when I played college football at the University of Washington. This award right here is the only award voted on by the players at the University of Washington, the Huskies. And it was the first time it went to a non-scholarship player in the history of the program. Again, remember I told you I hurt my knee. I couldn't walk for 3 or 4 months. I came back and played 2 more years. So sometimes it's the setbacks in our life that really set the course for much bigger and better things.
I like your collection of books. I also love political, historical books.
Yeah, it's really. I'll tell you what's really.
But one of the
so
most.
you need to send him something from Africa.
Yes.
He doesn't have a collection.
Yes.
Yeah, let
Putting
me
you on
take
the
a
spot
photo. So that.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah, I really liked your collection, and one of the most important political story I've ever liked is how this guy was defeated immediately after winning the war.
Exactly, it's a great. Yeah, right. It is really astonishing. Yeah, Clement Attlee, right?
Yeah. You fight.
Yeah, but this picture was taken. This is taken, I think, when he made his comeback.
Yeah.
This is one of. So I love this picture.
Oh.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, he saved the world from tyranny. It was gone, right? But I think what happened is I think he took the eye off the ball, and I think he misunderstood the economic circumstance. You know, there's a more recent historical example of that.
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush, the first Bush president, after the Gulf War, his popularity was sitting at about 90%.
Can you photo this collection?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't trace camera. Yeah.
His popularity was sitting at the first Bush was sitting at 90% a year out. But what he did in January of 1992, a few months before that picture was taken, there was a recession, there was an economic downturn, and unfortunately, for him at the time, he misjudged the political landscape. Now, some of these are really. You're going to get me talk about my books. Yeah. I got to tell you, there are a couple of these books that you're absolutely, for a political person, are absolute must.
What happened? So he has won the war.
Yeah.
He's 90%.
Right.
So then what happened?
Well, finances. I think he appeared. The problem is that he didn't come after it very hard. His election, and the financial situation started to worsen. And the other thing is he appeared out of touch, and also he went back on a promise at the 1988 convention, of which this book focuses on. This is about all the candidates in the 1988 presidential race. I bought this book across the street from the White House, and this chronicles all the candidates in 1988. Probably one of the best books I've ever read. What happened is George H.W. Bush promised no new taxes. And he said the words, "Read my lips," in 1982. The problem is that when he got in, he ended up having to raise taxes. So his opponent really made it sound like he was untruthful to the public, and that's what happened. It turned, and he lost badly. And then the thing that happened in 92 was another Republican got in the race and split the Republican Party, just like what happened in 1912 with Teddy Roosevelt. And so when that split occurred, a Democrat came in, and that Democrat was Bill Clinton. So a couple of books here. This book, Team of Rivals, it's an absolutely essential reading, and it details Abraham Lincoln's cabinet.
Yeah.
Now, when Abraham Lincoln was not supposed to be the president.
Yeah.
He was a one-term congressman.
Yeah.
12 years before, in 1848. But he was able to capture the nomination. He won the race. And what did he do? And this is actually a very key thing. All of these men were his competitors.
Yeah.
This guy right here, William Seward, was supposed to be the president. But he made him his Secretary of State. And he made Salmon B. Chase, this man, the Secretary of the Treasury. He made this person a person who hated him, the Secretary of War. So he had all these people that were his rivals, and he put as his cabinet members. And his chief political advisors are like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "If I put them all with me, their success will be my success." And it was a stroke of ultimate political genius. And ultimately, they all helped each other. And he was the first Republican, the first president to be reelected in 36 years.
Wow.
Actually, hold on for a second. It was 28 years. It was no president had been reelected since 1832. So it was 32 years. So no president had been reelected since Andrew Jackson had been reelected in 1832. So by the time you get to 1864, Lincoln was convinced that he was going to lose the 1864 election in the middle of the Civil War, which would have been disastrous. There'd be two United States of America. The most important presidential election that ever happened in this country happened in 1864, and he won it. Then, what was interesting, Grant, who started the Civil War, and I could talk all day, but well, what's interesting is this Ron Chernow is really one of the great writers in America, and he actually wrote.
Yes.
His first book was all about Alexander Hamilton, which that's more at the beginning of the country. But Grant was a military man. When war broke out in 1861, he was unemployed. Well, he was unemployed, and then he got a job working in his father-in-law's store. He had been an officer in the army, but he had gotten out of the army, and he had tried everything, and he just couldn't make a run of it. War breaks out. He enlists. He becomes a brigadier general. He leads some troops in the western area, and within 3 years, he leads an army of 500,000 men. And then he is appointed the head of the Union Army, defeats Lee in Virginia at the Appomattox Courthouse, and 3 years later, he's the President of the United States. Within 7 years of being essentially ruined and unemployed, he is the President of the United States. It's one of the greatest rises of power in American history, if not world history. So Nixon's got a great story. Teddy Roosevelt is a great story. This is, again, all the candidates from the 1968 race. I'll tell you what a really good book is The Last Line is absolutely indispensable. The Last Line, all about Churchill, is absolutely required reading for anybody that wants to be in politics. And really, he saw what was coming and the danger, the storm that was rising in Germany. But I'll tell you what was fascinating that I read last year, which was really when that picture was taken, and about what happened in France, and about how Churchill saved his nation from what everybody considered to be impending invasion, and how they did it, and the shock and the surprise that everybody had, much like the way Russia just unsuccessfully invaded Ukraine from multiple different ways. That's exactly what happened to France, and then what Churchill's concern was. Let's see. Oh, this is a book that there's two books here. Augustus is a very important read. Augustus was the first emperor. Really the first emperor of Rome.
Yeah.
And this is really very interesting. Obviously born as Octavian, and then Julius Caesar. Really, probably one of the most pivotal moments in world history, when Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon.
Yes, continue.
And really, so what happened was Octavian. And I won't say the whole story because it's a longer story.
Yeah.
But what happened ultimately is everybody's heard the name. Everybody's heard of Julius Caesar, right? And everybody understands, But his nephew was Octavian, And that struggle really, and that conflict of power, ultimately, Julius Caesar was up in Gaul, which is modern-day France. He got sideways with the Roman Senate. There was a breakdown there. It was all about a presidential election, or what they call consular elections, and his conflict with Pompey the Great, his former brother-in-law, and they had a triumvirate. One of the individuals passed away, and it was just Julius Caesar and Pompey. Civil war ensued, and then as Julius, it was illegal for a soldier to have soldiers in the city of Rome, and or even in the peninsula. So when he crossed the Rubicon, the die was the Civil War, and so then down the road, he was eventually assassinated several years later, and eventually, about 14 years later, his nephew Octavian becomes Augustus, the August one, and really, it is said that he took a nation made of clay and made an empire made of marble, and then he started that off. And so, really, you used to have two Roman consuls that ran. We're talking about rules of government. There used to always be a real balance of power, and they abhorred kings, and they did not want to have kings, and so, but once Augustus becomes emperor, then you have concentration of power, and you have the Julian Claudian line that ruled until 37 AD, 41 AD, and then obviously to 400 before the empire eventually fell. But it was all under emperors, so it was really the loss of their republic. Very, very interesting, and that's what SPQR is about. SPQR, which is really, Mary Beard is one of the renowned Roman historians. SPQR stands for Senatus Populusque Romanus, which is the Senate and the people of Rome. And if we were in Rome right now and you saw a park bench or even one of those manhole covers, you would see that everywhere. And it's still the emblem of Rome. It was on all of the standards. And it means the Senate and the people of Rome. And even throughout the emperor time. So yeah, these are.
And this one, the power broker.
Yes, yes. Well, that's actually
That one looks Machiavellian.
It is. Good reference. Well, this is Robert Caro.
Yeah, this one looks.
That what this
it's
is?
like 48 Laws of Power.
Right. That's
by
a great
Robert
book.
Greene.
Right. That's a great book. So Robert Caro has written the definitive books about Lyndon Johnson, Means of Ascent and Path to Power.
Oh, the Path to Power. Yeah.
The Power Broker, Robert Moses, was an individual who essentially ran New York City, and he for about 50 years really remade New York, not just New York City, but the state. And he ran for office before, but he was always the power broker behind the scenes. And anybody who wants to be in municipal or county or even state government or county government needs to have this on their shelf. This is really one of the definitive works of governance.
Oh, it seems they want to seeking your services.
Oh, hi there.
Oh.
Hi.
It's part of us.
Very good.
Oh, okay.
Hi there.
Sorry.
So, let's see here. This really, I'll tell you, the book that started it all, the first really book that I got into was American Caesar, about Douglas MacArthur. Douglas MacArthur was a 5-star general. He was the Supreme Allied Commander in the Pacific Theater in World War II. And that's a very interesting story about World War II.
Oh.
This is more of the B shelf, but I've got probably about 15 books by Richard Nixon, and which is a fascinating story. So yeah, I've got a lot of the other presidents and American history.
Okay.
The Civil War. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
We wanted to take you a photo next to those flags.
Absolutely.
No, if you don't mind, you guys.